Hi team. I made a video recently on the worst experience of existential terror that I've ever felt on this journey of spiritual awakening. And I thought it would be wise to balance things out by also speaking about the most blissful and most euphoric moment of, we could say, existential peace. After all, I don't want to put anyone off of spiritual awakening, and yet I've noticed that a lot of my videos and videos on spiritual awakening in general focus on overcoming the problems and managing the symptoms of spiritual awakening, so to speak. And so I thought I should also focus on just focus on why we do it. Why we do this, why we got engaged in spiritual awakening in the first place. Let's not lose sight of the promise of spiritual awakening. Let's not lose sight of the profoundly liberating transformation, the profoundly liberating change in our experience of life that occurs during true realization. It's easy to forget, to lose sight of that, whilst all the energetics are all mixed and tumultuous, and through all of the confusion and fog, it's easy to lose sight of it, but let's not forget. I mean, the image of the Zen monk in the forest, in a tranquil forest, next to a babbling stream with the moon just coming out in the evening, clear night sky, just total peace, liberated from human suffering. So this experience was the first time that I had a profound experience of Kensho. Now, I've experienced peace before, I've experienced bliss before, I've experienced relaxation before, but this experience was the first time that something very profound changed. There was a powerful shift. And I've never been the same since, if I'm honest. I'd been doing some meditation before this and experienced kind of bog standard garden variety relaxation and peace of mind and we could say tranquil body. But these were all they were still able to be held in the framework of normal, everyday experience. It was very peaceful, very relaxing, very blissful, very enjoyable, but it's just the same sort of thing that you would expect to experience if you went to a very nice, luxurious spa, something like that. So it was very good. I knew meditation was very powerful and was having this powerful effect on me, but I hadn't experienced a spiritual experience. And wasn't looking to either, interestingly. I got into meditation purely to help me overcome my anxiety and my depression, and help me overcome my addiction and obesity as well. But primarily it was for the anxiety. I never really... I just wanted to worry less. I never really set out to transcend human suffering. But hey, I guess you'd get that as a free little side order along the way. The point is, I know the difference between just serenity and peace and standard physical and psychological happiness. And then I had this experience and something shifted. I felt a spiritual, existential euphoria. And as I say, things changed from there. That was the beginning. That was the bright little spark that began to wake me up from this dream, from this nightmare. So, I was sat on the seafront. This was about 6 years ago now. I've lost count of time. But it was about 6 years ago. And on this seafront, you can see these red cliffs. So over to the left, I could just see these red cliffs. And it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a spring day. And the sun was just shining off of these red cliffs. And they stretched far into the distance. And you can see the haze, that sort of misty haze that sort of pervades around, just hanging over the sea and just obscuring the cliffs in the distance. And the sun shining off of these cliffs and glittering on the waves. And I could hear the seagulls. And it was a bright, clear, sunny day. A few wisps of cloud, like those sort of cirrus kind of clouds, high up in the stratosphere. And it was fairly peaceful on this seafront. And I could hear the waves lapping against the shore, and it's a pebbly beach. It's not a sandy beach there. It's pebbly, there's lots of rocks. So as the waves kind of crash up against the shore, you can hear that kind of rough jangling of the rocks, like rocks over rocks, a very powerful kind of sound. And the waves were quite, not fierce, but quite forceful that day. So they were really washing up and down the shore and just pushing these rocks up and down. And I could feel how warm it was, but there was just a cool breeze that I could feel on my skin. The air was fresh. And I sat on a bench, and I'd just finished a coffee. I like nice strong black coffee, no sugar, no milk. And it was a day off. I was working as a gym instructor at the time. I'd been doing a lot of physical training and doing a lot of my dieting as well. But that day, it was a Friday, was just a total day off. No training, no work, and I was easing off on my diet as well. And I'd been doing meditation that morning, but I hadn't come to the seafront in order to meditate. I'd just come down there just to enjoy this beautiful weather and just enjoy the natural peace and serenity. So it was already quite a calm day, and I was already feeling relaxed and at peace. All was well. And so I wasn't expecting it when I had this sudden, powerful wave that rose up in me of a total letting go. It was a letting go of everything. A very similar feeling to when you wake up from a nightmare. You know that feeling of relief that you get when you wake up from a nightmare? When you were suffering just moments ago, and then all of a sudden you suddenly feel that sense of relief. Now, I hadn't been suffering at all that day, but I still, so just from the place of peace and happiness that I was in, suddenly there was this massive elevation of that, as there was a feeling of permanence to the peace and happiness. Because often we feel as though our peace, our happiness, our relaxation is dependent on the circumstances around us, something came over me that made me just know on a very deep, fundamental, primal, cellular level that this peace was accessible at all times. And I knew that although it was peaceful surroundings, this particular peace was existential. It went beyond any circumstance. It went beyond the physical world. This came from a far deeper place. It was as though the entire universe, the cosmos, just descended right over me for a moment. I was just like, wow, okay. So what was characteristic of this Kensho moment was this peace goes on forever. In that moment, I felt like I am never going to get lost in my streams of thought again. I'm never going to get lost in my narratives in my mind and all my history and all of my worry and all of that. In that moment, I thought, I'm never going back into that again. I am going to remain at peace forever. This is eternal. And then perceptually, something very curious happened. So we know the red cliffs with the sun shining off and the haze of mist over the sea is beautiful, right? We know the glittering of the waves is beautiful. We know the sky and the sun and this beautiful seafront scene is beautiful. But my eyes were drawn to the railings in front of me. The railings. The metal railings that separate the promenade from the seafront, from the beach. And these are old railings. This will sound crazy, I know, but if you've ever experienced something like this, this might sound familiar. Despite the fact that the true beauty, surely, of this scene is the cliffs and the sun and the sea and the nature, this marvelous natural scape in front of me, my eyes were drawn to the railings in front of me. They are thick, old railings, and they were painted in this flaky, powder blue paint. Very light blue paint, almost like eggshell. Just very light blue, baby blue, eggshell, powder blue, that kind of hue. Faded and flaking. And underneath that flaking paint was rust. You know, when metal is all mottled and kind of bumpy but smooth, old rust. And the rust was deeply set into the iron, the thick iron that was underneath this flaking powder blue dry paint. So we had the deep brown, reds and oranges of the rust next to this blue. And I couldn't take my eyes off of these railings. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Rusty railings. And the profound thing that struck me there was that despite all of the beauty, which was still beautiful, it's not that anything else became ugly, everything was still beautiful, it's just all of a sudden something as mundane, something that we ordinarily look past, something that we might even consider to be unsightly, suddenly joined in with the beauty of the surroundings. And then my perception came back out of that. And I realized everything was just as beautiful. the pavement, the bench I was sat on, the seagull that was eating from a polystyrene burger tray and cawing loudly. It was beautiful. There wasn't a single part of the experience that I thought that's displeasing, or I'd rather that wasn't there, or I don't like that. If I could, I'd get rid of that. There wasn't a single part, not a single part of that experience, of that scene, that I would change for anything in the world. It was perfect. Perfect. A perfect moment. The railing, the seagull, everything. All together. The pavement, the bench, it was just spot on. And what made this then continue to be incredible, and how I know something had changed on actually in the way I was perceiving reality. This wasn't just feeling good. This wasn't just a good mood. This was a shift. Something had changed. For one thing, although it was a very euphoric feeling, I actually felt very stable. Now, I know what it had been like previously to be in like a kind of a manic state. And actually, although manic states do have a kind of euphoria to them, they're also deeply unsettling because you don't feel stable. You don't feel in control of your own actions. I've had that before. This was different. The euphoria was there, but I just felt totally calm. My body was calm. There were still thoughts just drifting by, but that was all perfect too. That was all perfect too. Previously, my thoughts had been my enemy. I'd been in meditation trying to get rid of thoughts, but now that was accepted too. The whole scene was flawless. Inner world, outer world, didn't matter. It's all the same thing. And then there was a feeling of, a thought came into my awareness of, but what about when this feeling goes? But that was then observed as just another part, similar to how the rusty railings would ordinarily be, that's an unsightly part of this scene. If only the railings weren't there, this scene would be truly beautiful. Now the perception had changed to, this is beautiful with the railings. It's all part of the same beauty. Nothing needs to change. It was the same with that thought. The thought, but what about when this experience ends? That was like a rusty railing. So in this moment, everything was at peace, even in the presence of that particular thought. And that's where the true security of this peace, this is when that can't go anywhere now, because it doesn't matter what thought comes into the field of awareness. It's just part of the current experience, and the current experience is perfect. So it's just perfect, 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 moment by moment, regardless of what the experience is. Now I got up from the bench, and I kind of thought maybe this was a bit of a mistake, but I thought, right, I'm going to test this. Because now, in that moment I was like, wow, I've achieved enlightenment here. Now I need to go and float around the village and see see if I can spread some of this. That was the sentiment. I wanted to other people need to know that everything is perfect. And as I was walking along the seafront path, I saw there was a bin that was overflowing with litter, rubbish. And I went, that is perfect. It struck me as beautiful. It was as beautiful, an overflowing bin with all the litter spilled out over the side with seagulls, coming in, grabbing bits out of it. That was as beautiful as the most aged tree in a distant Japanese forest It was as beautiful as the moonlight shining on a mirror-flat lake at night. It was as beautiful as a mountain at sunset with clouds around it. And now I was looking at an overflowing trash can, and it was just as beautiful as those things. To this day, I still find bins, trash cans, and like a rubbish dumps, tips, we call them here, to be quite zen. I don't know why. I've given up trying to kind of figure out what the spiritual significance of it is. Maybe something to do with clearing out the old. I don't know, but I still find them very, very auspicious. Bins. Maybe because of this moment. Because that's ordinarily something we consider to be the most ugly element of the scene. That should be something we look at and go, ugh, turn our nose up in disgust. But I went the opposite way, and it was just, that is absolutely perfect. And it was that perfectness. And that's where a great deal of the profound liberation comes from. There is nothing in the universe that shouldn't be there. It couldn't happen. Anything that we can perceive has been pre-accepted by definition. It's been pre-approved, it's pre-allowed. It arrived here in a perfect state, remains in a perfect state, and then leaves in a perfect state, and nothing happens. And that goes for your inner world as well as the outer world, which seems like the most impossible thing to get until you get it. Oh, right, even that. Even my anxiety. Really? Yeah. And once it's accepted, it starts to just move on. And one day you're like, oh, that's weird, I don't get anxious anymore. That's strange. Not that you needed it to happen or tried to hurry it along, but one day it's just like, oh, that's odd. My suffering's gone. At some point, that the perfectness of everything began to diminish when I got lost again in my thoughts, and that happened when I went into a coffee shop to get another coffee, because I wanted to test, like, can I still maintain this incredible... It felt like it was permanent. I was like, all right, that's it, I am done. I am enlightened, awakened. I am now Bodhisattva. I am the Buddha. I am an ancient rishi, and yes, I'm going to go and spread this aura of transcendent peace to everyone. Spiritual ego 101 right there. So I try not to make that mistake anymore. But anyway, what I did was I went into a Costa Coffee, and I thought, right, I'm going to see if I can maintain my levels of peace and perfectness. And I'm like, man, I must have looked like a crazy person, even when I was staring at the bin. Man, I must have looked like I'd lost my mind. Which I guess I had, in one way of speaking. This guy's lost his mind. I'd be like, yep, thanks very much. Thanks for the compliment. That was the goal. So I walked into Costa Coffee beaming from ear to ear, thinking this is going to be the most spiritual coffee, and these baristas aren't going to know what's hit them. They're about to get a sheer wave of Brahman consciousness here. And it wasn't long until, having interactions with other people, I was kind of realized, oh, I think I'm back in the world now. It's not, and look, on it, obviously, that's nothing that anyone did wrong there. It was just, I guess, interacting with people is very charged with very, I don't want to say egoic energy because that's got such a negative connotation, but it's obviously interacting with people is going to put you back in your usual habit of personhood with all of your usual, defenses up and trying to be liked and trying not to be disliked and don't want to offend anyone. You want to do things right in the social order of things. Nobody likes to rock the apple cart. So I guess once again around people, it was just that framework of seeing the world started to darken that experience again. So therein lies the challenge, I suppose. That was something I thought at the time. I was like, okay, so I'm going to make a note of that. I was up in the clouds for a while. I was in Cold Mountain with Kensho for a while there. But now I seem to be back in the dust of the world. I have rejoined the Maya. I have plugged myself back into the Matrix, my friends. Oh, one must seek to escape all of this. Wherein lies this permanent liberation? I must seek Morpheus at once. Something like that, anyway. This is why one of the common queries is, but how do I make it stick? How do I make it permanent? Now, we might think that, well, I guess then, if I'd have gone into that state and then never interacted with another person ever again, maybe I'd have stayed there. And that Kensho will have become enlightenment, the full whack, the full English. What? The full Monty, so to speak. But I don't think that's the right approach. Surely it can't be. Can't be. I think instead it would be to regard even social interaction just the same as the overflowing bin, just the same as the thought that said, what about when this ends? Just the same as the rusty railings. Even social interactions, even conflict with people, maybe even that is just all seen to be perfect. I get it. Perfect. We're not trying to make conflict. Why would you? But just if I could have been in Costa Coffee at that time, enjoying a nice double shot espresso and recognized the perfectness of the whole thing, regardless of any social interaction, well, therein lies the challenge, I suppose. Anyway, that's what I wanted to speak on today. If you've had any experiences like it, please share them in the comments. It would be amazing to see some of these profound moments of liberation that people have had. I think it's very motivating, it's very encouraging, and it's very heartening to hear of others' experiences with this. But one final point here. If that hasn't happened for you yet, don't try and seek it. Don't try and mimic that experience I just spoke about, because that is striving and seeking and it'll send us in the wrong direction. Instead, just letting go. Let go and you'll get what you get, and you'll get it when you get it. But don't try to relate, it's compare and despair. So don't try to relate your experiences with that one. Everyone's is going to be unique and different. And what I experienced there is just how the mind was experiencing a new way of observing reality. The experience itself is not awakening. The experience itself is not enlightenment. The awakening is the shift in the position of your identity of consciousness. Yeah. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe on the way out. Thank you very much for watching, team. Take care. Be well. Stay present.